point in time, it is the India alliance that has the advantage, that has the edge. Uddhav Thackeray reclaiming the Shiv Sena Bal Sahib Thackeray legacy. Mumbai, the 4 seats that they contested, all 4 going in favor of the UBT at this point in time. So what does this election result mean for our politics? What does it mean for our economics? What does it mean for our fiscal trajectory? Joining us now is Rathin Roy, visiting senior fellow at Overseas Development Institute, and Brad Staples, the CEO of APCO Worldwide. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here on the program. Rathin, we were chatting yesterday and you said, look, let's wait for the details, and we are still unraveling many of the details at this point in time. The fine print and the post-mortem is underway. But the headline numbers, Rathin, what do you make of the result?
Well, one, let me just say on a personal note, I'm absolutely delighted that the city I come from, which is Bombay, has voted to end bigotry in Maharashtra. It's quite remarkable. It's not happened since 2004 that 6 out of 7 seats in Bombay have gone to the India alliance. And that sends a very strong signal, which I think is resonating across the country, that the attempt to gloss over the serious domestic economic difficulties India is in, headlined, in my view, by growth happening because of the excess profits made by a few Gujarati oligarchs. That is not acceptable now in rural North India and UP. It's not acceptable now in West Bengal. And in Maharashtra, I've seen that with their own eyes. Young people are fed up. They're fed up of large promises. They're fed up of charity. They're fed up of being labharthis, that is, beneficiaries. They want to be participants in the growth process. So in my view, this is a verdict that is a warning to both sides, saying that the country, especially the young in the country, are no longer prepared to, accept exclusive, narrow, broad-based corporate sector profits growth at the expense of wages. And they want to see a more inclusive growth across the country. They want to participate in the great Indian dream of an aspirational transformation and not just be charitable recipients of India's prosperity. That, for me, is the major message.
And I just want to build on that, Rathin, because, it's still the BJP and the NDA in the lead. And, the Prime Minister in his blog yesterday reiterating what his dream for India is and so on and so forth. When you talk about this great Indian dream, and in the context of the fact that after 10 years, you now have a BJP-led real coalition government where you will have to make space and accommodate allies and coalition partners, as opposed to the centralized way of the Modi government and the Prime Minister being the currency and the calling card for everything. How do you see a reshaping or a reimagination of this great Indian dream that you speak of in the context of the political verdict?
Well, there are 2 dimensions to that. The most immediate one is the fact that both these states have aligned with the BJP, other than the fact that, they were being harassed by the police and that sort of thing, which has become a commonplace in our country. For one thing, for one word for your listeners, and that word is package. Andhra Pradesh has for a long time been demanding a special package, which I actually helped design in 2014 when the state was reorganized. And Nitish Kumar has been demanding a special package for Bihar. So the first thing that's going to happen here is a lot of pressure on the FISC to deliver packages to these 2 states with the concomitant political resistance that you will get from other states who might equally feel they deserve a package, or they can see that this package will come at their expense. So I think that's going to be the first and most immediate thing happening. I think that there is, in economic terms, the support of the TDP and of the JDU comes with a rather large price ticket. In the case of the TDP, I'd argue that the package they would aspire to would be 5-6 lakh crores, yeah? And that's a lot of money. It's going to have to come from somewhere. And if you give that to the TDP, given Bihar's size, you'll have to give that to Bihar as well. And this could set off a cascade, a very different cascade of fiscal demands, which I think the government will struggle to meet with. That is one. The second and most subtle thing is this, that when you don't have a majority, you have to learn, like Mr. Gadkari did, Mr. Parikar did in times long past, to do business with people who may sit at the same table as you, but may not share your views or acknowledge your superiority. You'll have to try and work with different stakeholders as peers. I think the BJP has lost that art as it has become a highly centralized, highly personalized party. And they will have to now try and reach out if they're really serious about dreams and do that. The third thing that has happened, which I'm very encouraged by, particularly because my state, Maharashtra, has voted emphatically against the BJP. Manufacturing state, Tamil Nadu, has voted against the BJP. India's biggest state, UP, has voted against the BJP. And in Karnataka, the BJP has not done as well as it boasted. So these are four economic powerhouses. And then you have underperforming states like Bengal, which have also voted against the BJP. Sure, you have Orissa, who has voted for the BJP. Telangana, who has voted for the BJP. But these are relatively small states. So what's going to happen now, I think, also, given that these large states have said this, is the option of ignoring the economy or lying about it and not delivering real participatory and inclusive growth. Not just charity, not just feeding 800 million people or throwing a few gas cylinders at people. Real inclusive growth, which is all about finding good quality jobs and finding opportunities for the large number of unemployed young people that exist in all these geographies. If that challenge is not addressed, I think the message I'm getting from everybody is that bigotry is not going to be enough anymore. It is neither going to be necessary nor sufficient, and it is going to be punished. So I think now this government will have to up its performance in the economy and deliver on the economy, for which it will have to reach out to a broader range of stakeholders than just two businessmen from Gujarat, and we shall see how that goes. On a side note there, I was talking to people today in Hyderabad, and they were saying that this could mark the return of the South Indian industrialist. You know, they have lost a lot of business since the two A's have become so prominent under this government, and that's not going to be acceptable anymore. The South will want to have its fair share in participating in growth, and they will want to have a greater voice in the design of economic policy, and I think that's a very good thing.
Well, those will be the implications. And, important point that Rathin Roy was making there on the special packages, because we've already seen Jairam Ramesh tweeting saying, look, the Congress and the former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh had promised a special package for the state of Andhra Pradesh, and the India Alliance will do that. All of this, of course, with the opportunity of trying to woo Chandrababu Naidu at this point in time. But let's see how that goes. Nitish Kumar, I would imagine, would do the same. But Brad Staples, many thanks for joining us. How are foreign investors going to read this election verdict and what it means as far as future investments into India?
Well, one thing I would say, in a year of many elections, this election is of truly geopolitical significance, and I think second only to the US, perhaps, in terms of global economic significance and importance. What we're seeing happen in India is truly testament to a vibrant and thriving democracy, a real indication of democracy in action. I think there are also, the result points to several things which are crucial to investors. They look for stability, it counts. They'll want to see this new coalition government form a strong and sustainable leadership. India has a strong tradition of coalitions working in the past, and I think for those who will take an adjusted approach by the BJP and its leadership, there is a strong tradition of coalition governments. For investors, many investors know that states count in India as much as politics at a national level, providing incentives at the state level or implementing labor laws and in other areas. So that's another constant, irrespective of the outcome of the national election. I think there's also many policy areas that count to business and investors that may remain stable and consistent in the areas of climate change and sustainability. India has defined its path. Also in terms of trade policy and security, like-minded nations and US and other investors in the country see India as a crucial part of securing their futures, particularly given the realignment with China. And India has become the trusted partner for Western investors to counter China's influence, etc.
No, you're absolutely right. And that picture doesn't change. The fact that the world wants India to be part of the global supply chain in order to de-risk from China, that story doesn't change. And we're already starting to see that take shape. But and the other point that you made about states, that's a valid one as well. And, you know, you are seeing state government after state government going all out to woo foreign investors and domestic investors. Rathin was talking about Tamil Nadu. I mean, there's a battle on between Tamil Nadu and the state of Gujarat to try and bring the semiconductor makers into their own states, offering them, you know, as sweet a deal as possible. So I think this competitive federalism is playing out, and it benefits investors, it benefits foreign direct investors as well. But what would the expectation, the near-term expectation be? We do have that big event coming up with the budget in July. What would the near-term expectation be of this coalition as and when it is in office?
I think the expectation is going to be that the coalition will define a clear and certain path. That's what investors will be looking for. I think Narendra Modi will, let's not forget, Narendra Modi, if he's forming this next coalition government, will find himself very soon amongst G7 partners in Italy. And when you think about those that he will be with, setting the stage for India in a new government, he'll be alongside Macron and Scholz and other leaders for whom and Sunak for whom the future is much less certain. India's path with a new coalition government may look a little uncertain today, but in the context of global affairs and the elections that are taking place and politics on the global stage, India remains one of the fastest growing large economies in the world. It has a magnetic draw for investors, and the place that it's playing too in setting out a vision and an ambition for emerging economies across the globe is one that leading partner countries, like-minded nations, want to get behind, because there's a desire to see a new voice representing, or a strong voice representing, the interests of emerging economies around the world.
You're absolutely right. The Prime Minister is expected to be part of that G7 meeting on the 13th of June. So I would imagine that they will try and speed up government formation ahead of that as well. But, you know, elections across the world, you've seen that surprise verdict in South Africa. You've seen the surprise in Mexico. So, and, you know, you were talking about Sunak and, of course, that early election that's been called there. It is all happening at this point in time. But Rathin, you know, coming back to you now, and as far as the pressure on the fisc is concerned, you know, so far the government has sort of followed largely a prudent path on the fisc, in spite of COVID and so on and so forth. But you know, with coalition partners being accommodated, and if in fact they do need to dole out these special packages, etc., what would the expectation be as far as the fisc is concerned?
The fisc will undoubtedly be, the fisc will undoubtedly be under some pressure. It's a matter of political skill. There is no question that either side, probably Mr. Modi, has very little choice but to agree the terms and conditions under which a special package will be granted, and that package, as I said, will be fairly large. We're talking 3 to 4% of GDP for both the states of Bihar and Andhra Pradesh. That being said, there are ways to do this across time. And the political skill will lie in making a choice, which I don't think this administration has been very good at doing. This administration has been very good at lying to state governments. They will have to stop doing that now, because they are sort of held by the short and curtains by these two state governments, Bihar and Andhra, which coincidentally are the two that demand the special package for historic reasons most stridently. And they will have to therefore negotiate something that is credible if it is going to be multi-year. If they're not able to do that, and it becomes a big bang in year 1 or year 2 of this government, then we will have some fiscal stress. But again, I mean, that can always be managed. 3 to 4% of GDP, there's enough elbow room in India to be able to manage that. But if I may, let me sort of take that to assure foreign investors and others that this election points to three very good things. One, what I said, we have learned how to manage fiscal stress, and our external debt is very low. So you're not going to see a typical emerging economy, Turkey, stroke Brazil, stroke Argentina, stroke Indonesia situation in India. India will have to make tough fiscal choices because the amount we can borrow domestically is limited. And anytime you have to spend more and you have to borrow more domestically, that has domestic ramifications. But that's our internal problem. It does not spill across our borders. So that is one. I want to reassure people that, of course, this will raise a demand for specific packages and raise temporary fiscal stress. But as an economist, as a public economist, I can assure the international community it's fully manageable. So when Mr. Modi goes to G7, I think which is also being held by a leader that's rather remarkably right-wing and populist, right, to put it politely, Prime Minister or President Meloni in Italy, he will find himself amongst people who are going to assess him very carefully. President Biden has probably formed a judgment of him by now. I think the French presidency will be taking a rain check. And I think he will have to be able to look at Mr. Starmer in the eye and articulate most clearly, and not in this sort of rather aggressive fashion, why the repeated overtures the UK has made on the free trade agreement, why there has not been progress on that, and try and close that fast. At the same time, he will have to pay far more close attention to the one weak spot that he has brought to India's international reputation, which is decline in freedoms, increase in bigotry, and all the things that the international community has noticed, and that his government has, or the past government, has frankly been very shrill and defensive about. They'll have to find a more sophisticated way of doing things. But I think the international community should be reassured that the opposition has come with the full blessing and mandate of the advanced economic states. It has also come with the hopes and aspirations of India's second poorest state and a state that has denationalized like West Bengal. That's a great package for a very competent opposition to make a value proposition to the Indian public that would necessarily involve a coherent, macroeconomically stable, and inclusive value proposition that international investors can get into and take advantage of. So I think the message they should get is that crony capitalism is now going to be limited. Bigotry is going to go down. So India, in fact, as a result of this election, is a far better place to do business than it was last week.
All right. The foreign investors, of course, FIIs particularly, will be looking at the Indian markets closely, which have seen a very, very volatile session today on the back of the fact that they went up, rocketed on the back of the exit polls. And today, when the actual verdict emerged, the market sold off quite sharply. So we will see that recalibration and resetting for the stock markets as well, digesting the electoral verdict over the next few days. But Brad Staples, Rathin Roy, always a pleasure. Many thanks for joining us here on CNBC TV 18. Appreciate your time. We are going to take a break here.